Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the audience and everyone watching. We are joined this morning by Dr. Powell, who has been the superintendent of our district for the past 9 to 10 years, and she will be retiring by the end of this school year. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
So my first question for you was, you were a PISD student.
Absolutely.
And how has that shaped your leadership in education? Did that inspire you in any way?
Absolutely. I'm very proud to have gone to school in Pasadena ISD. And of course, it was an honor to be the first superintendent to be a graduate of Pasadena ISD. I think it influences every decision I make because I'm very familiar with the community that we serve, the students, of course. I've not only served as superintendent, before that I was a teacher, and of course helped coach teachers, assistant principal, a principal, an associate superintendent, a deputy superintendent. So I didn't just get into the business and become a superintendent. So all of those roles help shape my decisions and influence how I make decisions, and it's always for the best of the students. And being a student in Pasadena ISD helped that, definitely.
Yeah, like she said, a teacher over there at Jackson Intermediate, kind of close by. What I was really curious about was, what experiences did you learn being a teacher in Pasadena that not only you didn't learn being a student, but also helped you become a superintendent in areas that you knew need improvement going into it?
So I started teaching when I was 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
So being a young teacher, had really high expectations for students, loved teaching. In fact, I got into teaching thinking I was only going to do it for a couple of years, get my master's degree, and go into counseling and do private counseling for families and couples and things of that nature. But I loved teaching so much and fell in love with the students that I served, the challenges they were facing because they were facing poverty or perhaps family dynamics that were not conducive to their success, or they just had challenges that I wanted to be there and be part of helping and building relationships with those students. So teaching was obviously something that I was going to continue doing. I wasn't going to walk away from. But of course, to answer your question and remind me what the question was, because I got on my passion of students. Remind me what the question was.
So being a teacher in Pasadena, what did you notice in Pasadena real early that needed to be addressed head on going into your superintendency?
Well, I think it goes back to relationships. You know, they got to know you care before they care what you know.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good one, yes.
And so building relationships was very important. Of course, as far as the students were concerned, we've got to have a teaching staff that is in tune with what the challenges are. And as I got older and had children of my own, I realized perhaps those high expectations were a little unrealistic at times. I think my compassion for what students face and what they deal with, and they go through their teen years and adolescent years, I started to change my perspective and have a little more ease, laid back. You know, I see my former students, they're like 40 years old now, so you can only imagine how old I am. But they tell me, you know, you were really strict, you were really hard on us, but it was good. We needed that structure, and we needed that. But I think back and I apologize almost, like I was so hard, you know, but it wasn't because I didn't care. It was because I loved students and I cared about their success, and I wanted to make sure they reached their full potential. And so I hope that answers your question. But teaching was a super important part of being a school administrator and being a district administrator, and I never want to forget those opportunities and experiences I had as a teacher in the district.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
You once said, and I quote,
Uh-oh.
even if we weren't perfect, we could still be 100%. What does that mean to you, and how has that mentality contributed to your leadership?
So when I became superintendent, our graduation rate was not where it should have been. And so, you know, we're one of the highest in the state, especially for the student population that we serve. We're above the state average. But till we're 100%, that's not perfect. So we have work to do because we want every kid to graduate. We want every kid to be successful and make sure they reach their full potential. So I'm not sure, there's no telling when I say things because sometimes words fly out of my mouth before I think about them. But we have to work hard to make sure we address every kid's needs. And every kid is different. Kids at Dobie, they may think that they're the same as kids at Pasadena High School or kids at South Houston, and all kids have the basic needs the same, but they experience different things in different ways. You have different teachers, you have different administrators, you have different opportunities, and we try to provide all the same, opportunities across the board, but you may have a program that they don't have the same level of participation in or the same opportunity to get involved at that level. So we have to address kids individually and make sure they have the needs that they have met. And so it's a challenge, but I'm fortunate because we work in a district that we have great teachers and we have great administrators that truly care about kids. And I think that makes my job so much easier. So I'm all about the people, whether it's the students, whether it's their families, or whether it's the teachers or administrators. And that's what makes it easier.
Yeah, that idea of different struggles and pushing through it. You, during your tenure, you went through Hurricane Harvey, COVID-19, a bunch of different adversities that for some leaders will think last forever and kind of get caught up in and may actually give up. But you pushed through it, and I found it very inspiring. I was very curious, what areas did you have to improve in leadership in order to push through those challenges?
Yeah. So Harvey, we're here at Dobie, and this was the first shelter that was opened in the area. And it was amazing to me and inspiring to me to see the community come together. I mean, we had students wading in water up to their chest to get here, to volunteer and to help. And, that was a little scary in and all of itself, but the community came together, not just the South Belt community, but the community as a whole, the greater Houston, the Pasadena community came over to make sure families had the needs that they were experiencing, whether that was food, whether that was clothing, medications that were left at their households, different needs for different families and groups. We had teachers here that were needing shelter as well because they had lost their home. So I think that was inspiring to me. As challenging it was, if you were at, Beverly Hills, or if you were at Thompson, you remember those two rival schools had to be combined into one campus. That was challenging, but we did it. And everyone learned and grew from it. And so I think going through those experiences, there's been a tornado, there's been a bus accident on the way to graduation. There's been a lot of things that have happened. And I'm sure teachers joke and say I'm probably the common denominator in that, or I hope they know that it's not me, but maybe it'll get a little smoother. But what I've learned is people are amazing. They come together in times of crisis and they want to help one another. So to lead that, I think has made me stronger as a leader. I've learned that you've got to communicate. You got to communicate loud and long and often to make sure people know the direction you're going. We went for spring break and then we didn't come back. So families were confused. Students were confused. What's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to that? Teachers were confused. We all learned Zoom really quickly, right? And we had to figure out what was education going to look like. And there was no playbook or instruction manual for that. So it's made me stronger as a leader, most definitely, and it's made me inspired by the people that rolled up their sleeves and got the work done. I mean, you think about teachers. They had to flip over 1 week and figure out how to teach their kids and get them their lessons and meet their needs through a camera.
Yeah, it's called Zoom because you got to learn it fast.
That's right. I love it.
Amazing.
So you obviously have a strong love for this position that you're in. Going into retirement, it's good for you, but at the same time, it probably won't be easy because you love it so much. So what are you going to miss most about this position, being superintendent?
Well, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over, but I'm going to miss the people. We were talking about going to Austin and seeing our legislatures, and we took a couple of students on that. But it's the students, but it's also the staff that makes the magic happen every day. So I'm going to miss the people. I serve on a board, and of course, I'm the superintendent, and there's 7 board members, so a team of 8 that make decisions for y'all as students and as staff members. I'm going to miss that opportunity. We've got police officers in the room and what they do to keep our students safe. We've got students here that amaze me with the individual accomplishments, the school-wide accomplishments. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of what we've achieved in the last 9 or 10 years. I mean, just amazing things have happened and progress has been made. So I'm going to miss being part of that. I'm not going to miss 4 a.m. weather calls where I'm the one that's going to get torn up either way we go, whether we stay at home or whether we go to school. I'm not going to miss, 20-hour days, 15-hour days, things of that nature. But I'm going to miss the students and the staff and the people that we serve in PISD.
Thank you for those weather days.
Yeah, we got a lot of them, didn't we?
Yeah, and like you said, dealing with that backlash, you were actually the first woman to become superintendent in Pasadena, and that to me is a big accomplishment in itself. But what I was really curious was like, how did you handle that backlash? Because I assume you've had a few chips on your shoulders and people against you. What pushed you through those times?
You know, you mentioned Mr. McCarley, our deputy superintendent, and he's been a partner of mine in education for 25 years because we worked together at Jackson and became principals at the same time at different campuses. And he would always say, don't read social media. You're not going to win if you read it. Of course, I would at some point sit down and read the comments and curious. So that was never fun because people like to sit behind a computer screen and, you know, second guess or Monday morning quarterback or whatever. But to be honest, as a whole, I've been very supported. I'm very supported by the community, very supported by parents, very supported by religious leaders in our community. Marie Flickinger, who of course has passed away and a big force in this community, was one of my biggest supporters. And that meant the world to me, to have people like that. Our partnership with San Jacinto College and working with Brenda Hellier, the administration has given me support, the teaching staff has given me support. So I felt like as long as I was working hard, they could see that and appreciate that. And, you know, of course, we were able to achieve great things together as a team.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about, y'all talked about support systems, we actually have a student body here curious about some questions yourself. Was anybody curious to ask any questions?
I have a question. I have a very serious question.
All right.
Hold on.
They're going to get you a microphone.
I have a very serious question. What is going to be your first vacation after your retirement?
Mexico. That may not sound that exciting, but I had about 4 years ago asked cabinet members, and when I say cabinet, that's like my administrative team. That's like Mr. Thomas and his assistant principals. And I said, guys, I haven't been on a vacation in forever. Where should I go? And Mr. Joseph Ager said, I've got this place you need to go in Mexico. And I went, fell in love with it because just laying on the beach, reading books, not thinking about stresses of the world. And so, you know, I might be a person that is routine because I've gone back each year. So that's my first one planned, but I need to get a little more creative. So if you have suggestions or others, I'll take them.
Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
In Mexico.
Okay. That's one.
Anybody else?
How can you encourage someone to continue to do what they love?
Well, I think it's important that y'all all do what you love. You know, I have kids that are now, my oldest son is 31, and then I have kids, 2 that graduate from Dobie, by the way, that are making career decisions right now for their future and for their life. And the biggest thing I tell them is love what you do. I worked 34 years, and every day I love to go to work. And it makes me emotional, but some people hate their job. Don't hate your job. Don't hate your job. So love what you do. That's my advice to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good way to conclude it. Loving your job and finding a passion in it. That's a beautiful
Absolutely.
story.
Well, thank you so much for being here, taking our questions.
Y'all were kind and easy to me. I appreciate it.
Like I said, it's like a coffee shop.
I like it.
No coffee.
Well, y'all do a great job.
It was very, very talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so
We
much.
wish you the best in your
Thank
retirement.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.